Larry Kudlow, the big news here, the next director of the Economic Council for the President. Bloomberg is now officially reporting he is going to be named. Do you have any initial reaction? Is it a good choice?
I think it makes perfect sense with this administration. One, it's someone who's been prominent on television, and we know how Donald Trump is in some ways the TV president. He gets how the medium works. He's choosing people who get how the medium works. So in that sense, it makes perfect sense. But he's also, I think trade is one of those issues where Donald Trump has held the same position for decade after decade after decade. He's not afraid to bring someone into his administration who he respects and admires, but with whom he might disagree on that issue, because I think he knows he's not going to be budged.
Yeah, but on the other hand, Larry Kudlow is no fan of those tariffs.
Right,
He's made
exactly.
it very clear. So let's talk about Pennsylvania right now and how significant it is or it is not for the Republicans. I mean, it is a surprise. One would have thought that this would have stayed Republican. It appears at the moment, at least, it's not going to. What does it tell us more generally about the electorate in November?
So any one individual race shouldn't be used to say, this is what it tells us for the election in November. But it does add a data point to a pattern. And that's a pattern of Republicans struggling in places where they shouldn't. Republicans struggling, pulling off the seat with Karen Handel in Georgia last year, but then losing the Alabama Senate election and now losing this race in Pennsylvania. It's Republicans struggling in places where they should not, and that is what is the problem and should scare Republicans going into November.
Does this also point out to the fact that it's boiling down to the GOP not getting any help from those tax cuts?
It may be the case that the tax cuts just weren't enough to push them over the finish line. I mean, I think Republicans believe they have not yet done the full sales job on the tax law, that you have a lot of folks that are just beginning to notice that their paycheck is a little bit bigger. They've been trying to push this message of check your check, and they believe that by the time they get to November, they'll be able to make the case, look, you've got more money in your paycheck now than you did last year. Do you really want to vote for a Congress that wants to try to take that away? But with that said, I don't know that Republicans have had as much success with the tax law quite yet as they would have preferred. And as you saw, it wasn't enough to put Saccone over the finish line in Pennsylvania.